Hello and welcome to the Feral Future Podcast. I'm Eric.
Hi, I'm Keri Joy.
It's been a little bit since our last podcast, but a lot's gone on.
Yeah.
Got some new things to talk about. Um, Short-term stuff. Do you want to talk about anything?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't know where to. Eric kind of just handles all the logistics for the podcast and then tells me what time to be ready. And so I kind of come in the unknown and the following, which I love to do. I love to follow his lead.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, I'm just grateful we're doing a podcast and speaking with you all. And yeah, we're in equinox times. We're in like a really new, powerful beginning. So that feels good, even though we've been going through some sad things here at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share about that?
Well, we lost one of our beloved little kitties. I went out for my morning walk the other day and unfortunately found her in the street. So that was sad, but it's a growing experience for all of us. With every loss, there's a chance for new birth and new growth, and all the things that come with grieving and the things that we shed and the things that we lose along the way. It's been interesting to see how her sister has started to respond in such a positive way. Her missing her sister has really opened her up to us, where she was kind of a little bit more skittish before. She's much more present and interested in us. So that's been a really interesting thing. Um, Luna is whining. I wonder if she misses Artemis as well, but it's okay. We all miss Artemis.
We all miss her terribly. Yeah, it's also really interesting how different beings deal with grief. You
Right.
know, um, I do a lot of emotional alchemy work, so I've been processing it at a very deep level because I believe that any pain we experience, it's never just what we're experiencing in present day. And I'm dealing with the loss of a being that I loved like a little baby girl. She was my baby girl. I would call her
Mm-hmm.
and she would run to me. I'd say, "Where's my baby girl?" And she'd run to me. So we had this immensely special bond. And I loved her beyond words. And yet I also know she's helping me heal pains within me that I haven't been able to heal in my life so far.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like then how you experience pain and wounds
Mm-hmm.
and how it's probably much more challenging as a male, dealing with pain in the body because you were really not taught to feel your feelings
Mm.
as a man.
Right.
So it's a much more heady, cerebral experience that I'm sure connects you also to your boys and things like that, but in a much more, um, yes, in the cognitive way versus the feeling body and how these pains and things that we experience in our body are actually connected to deep emotional wounds
Mm-hmm.
and hurts. And it's even, I was listening to, there's so much, let's just say even plant medicine that goes on, and it's about transcending and leaving the body. And yet, like, Christ consciousness is about transcending in the body. And that's actually how we really heal, is with the use of the body. And so it's not easy. And I also know you've been really supporting me
Mm-hmm.
in my experience and having to hold space, because there's nothing more for a woman that wants to feel held by not just a man, but a grounded man with presence. That is the containment that a woman wants to
Mm-hmm.
feel, is that a man is fully 100% present with her every breath and emotion and experience, and is able to hold and contain that. And yet you're also dealing with your own stuff at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. So it's a lot to process and experience. And then the work that you and I do as a couple and the polarity between both of us. So just like anything, it's just all these experiences from the outside are opportunities to just see what's really
Mm-hmm.
going on the inside.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I feel like we lost our other cat, Helios, just over a year ago for the same reason. And that one was a little bit more challenging. That one I certainly felt that one a lot more. This one definitely sad, but I feel like I've been through this and I've sort of understood it. And as much as I miss her, I also understand the cycle of life. And the more we look into having land and having animals, like this is just
Right.
the nature of life and how things are. And it's just part of the experience.
Yeah. And I think that's actually an important thing I'd love you to share because we are a little bit of an anomaly. And this is something that Eric introduced me to. And it actually will probably go right into the topic that
Hmm.
you want to talk about really beautifully. Um, but we do have feral animals. We believe in them being as like we want to protect them and give them comfort and shelter, and yet at the same time we allow them to live their lives in the way that nature intended.
Hmm.
And so we decided not to have domesticated cats where they're just inside all the
Hmm.
time. So we expose them to nature and the elements and
Yeah,
other animals and
they
all of
basically
that.
have free range
Yeah, they
to
have
go where
free
they want to do.
range.
They hunt and they play and they um, do what they do,
Yeah,
and that's sort of the ultimate experience, right?
yeah,
So we've essentially given them the full amount of an indoor cat of love and support and care and safety and you know all the cuddles and loves and comfort that they could ever want, as well as the full wild experience as much as they want. And so they've been able to sort of explore both of those, and sort of as a one of the things we talked about was sort of the soul's journey of a cat, right? Like, what is the cat here to do? And they're here to be a cat. They're not here to, have their organs removed at a young age and shot full of chemicals and then live inside of a box their entire life being fed out of a bag or out of a can. Like I don't think that's what a cat enters this world necessarily looking to do. So we've essentially given them the opportunity to have the full cat experience, and I think Artemis absolutely lived an entire lifetime that a cat could live. I mean, everything a cat could theoretically do in a lifetime, short of giving birth, she did. And so it seems very much so that like she fulfilled the cat's journey in sort of like a speed running
right.
lifestyle where she just did it all and did it quick and did it fast and was ready to move on to her next existence, whatever that may be. So
Yeah,
we kind of were a conduit for her to have that spiritual growth or experience, if that's what it is. And whatever is next for her now, she's kind of checked the boxes of everything she needed to do to go on from there. So
yeah,
I definitely don't feel like she missed out on too much because she, in many ways, was a mother to her sister. They would like suckle on her as though she was the mom. So she very much had that experience as well. As almost a kitten,
yeah,
she was already kind of fulfilling that role. So yeah, it sort of seemed like she had done everything she needed to do here, and it was time for her to go on to the next thing. And
yeah.
we facilitated that kind of progress of her development, of her evolution.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Eric and I made a pact that when we have animals, that is how we are. We want them to kind of live out their existence. That we would interfere as little as possible.
Hmm.
We'd give them all the love that they needed. We cook for them. We make them beautiful food. They sleep with us, but they're also allowed to live out their innate nature, which is
Hmm.
so beautiful and something that Eric really introduced me to because I never heard of anything like that. Like, what, you would leave your cats outside? And it's like, no, that's why they're here. So for them to, I mean, the only thing I didn't love was when they would bring in their mice and rodents inside the house. I could do without that. But other than that, it was really magnificent to see them living out their day-to-day nature and hunt and be, on the trees and running around and, be with the deer and the plane and all the things. It's like the most beautiful thing to see animals in their true nature. Um, so I was really grateful for that. And I do believe that with the intensity that is happening in the world right now, souls are being called in. And I do believe that our kittens have been um, kind of blessed with that next task of coming in
Right.
and either supporting the world in a new way, coming in a new way for us. So I am, but it's obviously just the loss of seeing the being every day and the cuddles and the
Sure.
smell and the scents and all that stuff that I miss terribly and just not having as much time as I'd like. But I do believe in the bigger, and this isn't a bypass because I think there is a lot of bypassing of like, there's a bigger meaning to everything. And it's like, yes, and we need to sit with what the pain is saying and communicating to us. And I am working with Artemis in a way of like bringing her into my creations and talking with her and what
Hmm.
is she trying to share with me. So in that way, there is a lot of beauty.
Yeah, and she'll always be with us
Yeah,
for that. So
absolutely.
yeah, so as you were kind of inferring, this sort of blends into the next um, kind of topic. Something we had a comment on one of our posts that I'd done where somebody asked about the idea of um, feral versus natural, and I did a little Instagram post responding to that. But there's so much to it that I kind of and so much that came out of that that I wanted to dive in deeper and do a little bit of a longer format. So good thing we have a podcast because now I have an avenue to do that. So
And I do want to say that Artemis was kind of supportive of that too.
oh, absolutely, yeah, because I think it was on the walk
Yeah. No,
after.
it was post, but it
Yeah,
was still like in the
yeah.
presence of
I had this came up
yeah.
as I was doing my morning
Yeah.
walks. After this came up, it was all part of the thing. So thanks Artemis for the awareness. But what ultimately came to me was the idea that everything is nature, and this can be kind of it's weird because it kind of goes into religion, physics, science, where we come from, what this is, that this kind of existence that we're all existing in together, whether we're co-creating it or experiencing it, however you want to look at it. um, it ultimately comes down to the fact that from what I believe, that everything is nature, and we have this idea as humans that we're somewhat separate from nature, that nature is this thing that's outside, and then we create these systems and structures that sort of insulate us from nature, and we don't really pay attention to the seasons, or we have something that sort of offsets nature every step of the way. And we got to the point where we just don't think of ourselves as being natural or part of nature, so much so that entire philosophies and things are built around sort of the separation of the humanity from the nature. And I think that's kind of what's wrong with the world today, is that we don't think of ourselves as nature, and we think of the things that we do as being unnatural, or the idea of synthetic or artificial. Is that really the case, or is that just kind of a twisted way of thinking about things? Not necessarily twisted, but sort of hijacked or even deceptively presented. And so some of the things that came up is like a city. How is a city natural? It's like, okay, well, is a beehive natural? Is an ant colony natural? I mean, that's a natural process that these animals, these creatures have started doing, whether it's a learned adaptation or whether it's something that's just embedded within their genes that they just know how to do instinctively. Are we as humans instinctively, you know, do we do that through our nature? Like, is that something we will always do? And it seems that humans always, everywhere you look, even in the most remote areas with no human contact, they still have some sort of infrastructure that they build, a place where they can have as their own, where they have a structure, a safety, a separation from the outside, because we as humans don't have the survival mechanisms that seemingly every other animal does have. Every other animal lives naturally without any additional components necessary. And what we lack in fur and claws and teeth and all of these things that allow animals to exist naturally in their habitat, we have our brains that allow us to create the systems that then support us where we live. And so that is our separator, because every creature has a separator, or else we would all be the same. And so that's our adaptation, or our unique quality that sets us apart from everything else. And even the idea of like changing the environment, the idea of farming, or again, the building of cities. Like, look at beavers creating dams and creating their dens that have like an air pocket that keeps them safe. Like, they're doing the same thing we are. So there's so many parallels to the things that humans do that seem unnatural, but yet in nature we see animals and creatures naturally doing a similar type of thing, or an equivalent type of process. But we don't see it that way because we think of ourselves as separate from nature, or somehow not
Superior.
connected or superior. Yeah, and we're absolutely not. We came from it, we exist within it, and we everything that we do is from it.
Right.
So the I think the unfortunate thing comes in when you think about how, like, well, the way that societies have been created to sort of take this connection that we have, separate us from it, and then charge us to sort of exist, when in nature and in true nature there's no cost to exist. I mean, I suppose the cost of being hunted, right? Or being food for something else, because that's the way the entire system exists. We're all food for something else, ultimately. But no, bears aren't paying rent to live in their caves to hibernate. They don't have to go to work in order to get their berries and their salmon. It's like it's just there for them to take, and they work very much in a balance with it. And again, that's something that I think humanity at large has gotten out of balance. And so many of the problems that we're seeing today is the things that are out of balance that are causing these problems to become apparent. So in smaller communities and smaller cultures, even if something's slightly out of balance, it can run for a long time without any major catastrophe, because there's enough space and time for things to sort of manage what's going on. But things have gotten so concentrated and so compacted in such a small area, specifically in the cities. They become, this idea of pollution. It's just an excess of waste and things that are not beneficial to us. Again, I don't think these terms that we use, like forever chemicals and radioactivity and all these negative concepts that we have, I don't think that they are negative or positive. They just exist. They are something that nature has the capability of producing or being produced through its components. We think of them as forever chemicals or having these long spans where, now we can't go this place for 10,000 years, but nature doesn't have timelines. It just operates, and it's always moving things back into balance. And the human timeline is really what puts into perspective what's going on and what the imbalances are. So, a city that gets polluted and, has all these illness and lack of, the pollution, the sickness, the negative mental attitude, all of these things are basically just the effects, the feedback loop of being out of balance. And the time frame for which that balance is to be restored is beyond that of a human lifetime, or beyond even humans' ability to live healthfully within. So, yeah, that's sort of the general concept. Um, I think it resonates. I don't think I need to explain it too much further.
Mm.
Does anything come up for
No,
you with all
I
that,
mean
or?
it's like it's a really beautiful concept. I mean, it is. It's not like a concept. It's like it's truth. Like it is when you share it. It's like yes, that is what it is, and it makes so much sense. It's also rather sad to like really feel into like where we're at today. Even just with I feel like, and almost this agenda to separate us even more so from nature,
Mm.
and just the disconnection and the numbness that we have. And even people, just and the phones for me are the thing that I
Mm.
find the most. um, I don't know if the word is enraging, but just it is truly just such a distraction to take us out of nature, and to take us out of what actually matters, and to be a part of something that is meaningful, or to be in truth, to be a part of what is actually real. And it's really sad because I see it as just probably the biggest, I don't know, sin or culprit, or to the amazingness of like human potential right now, because the amount of creativity that is being zapped by the chaos and the doom scrolling is really heartbreaking,
Mhm.
and is just, and it is has such an effect on the human psyche, and not just the human psyche, but like our ability to stay well, on our actual physical system, our immune system, like our emotional system. It has such an effect, and I don't see it getting better. I see it actually getting worse,
Mhm.
and it's gonna the amount of information, it's like the technological age that we're in, the amount of information that we're bombarded with on a daily basis. We have to actively choose something different. And I even put on my settings like to kick me off if I'm on too long. Now I have to go on for business, and I still have to like consciously choose to like go off of it. And when you think about just like the perfection of nature,
Mm-hmm.
and how if we all really saw ourselves like we're not separate, we come from stardust, like that's what we come from. Like we are stars, we're part of this whole cosmic evolution, and it's so magnificent, and that's the message that I wish more people understood, is just how magnificent we all are, and if to tap into the nature of all of that, where we would be and like the capabilities we'd be, having
Right.
right now.
Well, I totally hear you and agree on so many of your points. And just a kind of like an alternative way of framing it is that, look at everything that technology has brought about. Whether it's, I think it's, again, it's a balance question. It's out of balance right now. It's become the primary focus, the primary driver. It's overridden everything else. But in some cases, you almost have to go too far to realize you've gone too far, to realize you need to turn around and come back. And then it's, again, it's not at this point, it's not an issue of good or bad. It's just a question of, this technology exists. How should we use it optimally, right? Because if it's about community building and having contact with the people that are like-minded, that are building the things that you want to interact with in a positive way to create the world that you want, there's never been a more powerful tool to do that. Good luck walking around shaking hands and trying to find enough people to actually make a meaningful difference. This allows for that connectivity to happen, for the sort of like there is definitely this worldwide awakening of people that are kind of becoming aware of all this stuff, and the very technology that's causing the problem has allowed this community to emerge from it.
Absolutely.
So it's again this feedback loop and this balance. It's almost like this self-correcting
Yeah.
thing that's embedded within nature is in the process of happening. It's not doing it, maybe not consciously, but there's like a fundamental underlying
Right. I
rule
love that.
or truth
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah.
this is going too far,
Yeah.
and people are automatically,
Yeah.
nature is going to become aware of this
Right.
imbalance and is going
Right.
to find a way to correct
Yeah.
for it. And
Yeah.
so no matter how crazy things get, there will always be the balance.
Yeah.
The pendulum will always swing back the other way,
Right.
and ideally it doesn't swing so far back the other way that we're back into, rubbing sticks together to make
Yeah.
fire and stuff. But um, yeah, the seeking of balance, it's dynamic. You're going to go through highs and lows, goods and bads, hots and colds, darks and lights. Like, that's the nature of things,
Yeah.
and the cyclical nature of everything.
Yeah.
There's sort of the sequence within sequences.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I love the idea of like nature correcting itself, and that it does seem like what is happening, and it also seems like a big part of what feral future is.
mhm.
Is that part, is like the pendulum swinging and finding that balance. Like, you know, just as an example of how I look at even what we're building, is that we're building something that's really beautiful and meaningful, and um, it's like modern craftsmanship. It's like modern technology, but in a very, we say we use like elevated simplicity,
Mhm.
type of way, where I feel like our brand is so beautiful that I can see it in the pages of Vogue. It's not like reduced to like a farmer's market type of like hippy dippy, not to say we don't love the hippy dippy things, but it's this,
Why can't it be both?
it can't, why can't it be
Right.
both? And be appreciated by both, but appreciated by just, the balance of it all. And I feel like that's this part of it correcting itself. And yes, we need, and like you said, technology is really good if you can have the discernment to use it for the good things. Like, Eric and I launched a business, and we were like, we launched a business when ChatGPT started, like AI started. Like, it helped us monumentally being a two-person team.
Mhm.
Now, it also took out, like, I'm a writer, so to see writing diminish, it was like very heartbreaking to see so much of what was out there created in a way that was so like everything else. So, but that's like the pendulum going backwards. And now there's like, I'm hearing about like copywriters and things who literally have to write anti AI. They cannot write like the
Right.
AI at all. Like, you cannot. And whenever I put something out, I make sure I'm not, using anything that would make it sound like AI, because I want to be really myself and authentic and original. Not that there's any original, I mean, it's all part of the
Sure.
ether, and it's all grabbed from this whole big cosmic world that we're in. Um, but I do love the idea of utilizing it for what we need, but also being really conscious of like, why am I on here? Because then the distraction can come in. It's like all of a sudden I go on to do something, and then like I get pulled into do. It's like, no, 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 I'm on here for this
Right.
specific reason. And then yeah, I love the nature, because some of the photos that you and I have of like feral future in this like modern society of like with this old world versus new world, it's just so stunningly beautiful, and I love that balance of it all. I feel like it really does speak to a very discerning, very high evolved person who can really see the beauty in the details.
Absolutely. Yeah, the idea of taking old world craftsmanship and creating it again with a 3D printer.
Right.
It's like, why not? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you do that? You don't
exactly.
have to stand there for 40 hours with a chisel, like creating
Yeah,
this beautiful piece of art. Like we can print that now. And
yeah,
it's not to disregard what the other person did. It's to show, like, it's almost to celebrate it
sure.
and make it become more available, and potentially even longer lasting. Sort of moving that stuff forward. So yeah, I think all those things are very much true, and it's so easy to take a short term appearance of it, and classify it as being good or bad or this or that without really taking the time to sort of just accept it as is, and all the things that it can potentially do, good or bad, right? Like a knife or a gun, you could theoretically claim are dangerous and evil and scary, but at the same time, they can protect you, they can provide you food, they can, they can do any number of things. It's how it's used, and that's true. Like a
Yeah,
pencil could be used to write a beautiful poem or to send a death threat.
yeah,
It's like it's the same tool. It's just utilized in a different way,
right.
and how, who it's coming from and why. So yeah, I think the what that ultimately comes down to is the idea that nature is effectively like the ultimate truth. Um, and again, it's all things, and so, taking this into like multiple different levels. If nature is all things, religion, specifically Christianity or the Christian type religions, they talk about like God is all things, and then there's like, science and atoms, and it's like, um, existence is on a microscopic or submicroscopic level is just things popping in and out of existence. It's just this like random thing, but when you zoom out, you get this amazing reality, and it's very much the same concept. And even the idea of, like a video game. A video game for me is a perfect example of this idea of, you're looking at a video game. You can play a video game, and you can jump on one thing and you can walk through one door but not another, and this thing hurts you and this thing helps you, and but at the end of the day, it's just pixels. It's just little dots of light on a screen that are flashing, and there's this underlying, rule set that's meaning this one pixel is different than another pixel in the way it operates, but on the actual like level that you're interacting with, it's just a dot of light turning on and off. That's all. That's literally all it is. So if we're in a simulation, and this existence that we're seeing is literally just dots of light, if it's a holographic projection, if it's truly a 3D, 4D reality with, physical, I don't know what it is, but I don't need to know, right? And it's almost the secondary part of this is like asking yourself, or just really coming to terms of like, what do you really know, right? What do we really know? And, the answer is not much. We really know almost nothing. And it really comes down to each one of us is having an individual experience. And I've heard it said that it's like we're an awareness having an experience. Like that's the only thing that we know is true, and everything else beyond that is an interpretation. It's a
Right,
perception. It's a projection. It's
right,
all we know is we are aware,
right,
and this is the experience
right,
that we're having an awareness in. And what that awareness is, it could even be questioned.
right,
Everything's being processed through senses that are then going into the brain and then being interpreted by the brain and the mind to like project and create this reality that we're in. And I think one thing that, you said the phones and the algorithms and all the things that are coming out of that is everybody is effectively living in a different world right now, because what they're being shown how the algorithms are delivering things to them. Uh, yeah,
On top of their already fragmented traumas and
sure,
wounds that
right.
they've come in here with. So then they're fragmented already, and then like the phones with the algorithm, they're
So
presented
filters
a
among
whole
filters,
other
right?
reality on top of it. Like we're literally living in different
Yeah,
worlds.
everybody's universe is different,
Yeah.
and so I would say, what are the things that you claim to know? If you and that you have like a deep emotional connection to like your identity, and maybe it's time to start letting some of that stuff go, because it's actually very empowering to let stuff go. Um, it's kind of like holding onto the side of a pool. You'll never learn to swim, right? So if you these things that you're holding yourself with, these anchors are actually holding you back, like an anchor. Like an anchor can be a positive or a negative thing depending on how it's used. If you want to go out and explore, you got to pull that anchor up. But if you're in a storm and you need to stay put, then the anchor is really valuable. And so I would say, yeah, look deep into yourself at the things that you think you know, and be willing to let some of that stuff go, and be like, maybe even just start by rephrasing it. You can just like, well, this is my current understanding of it, or this is where I'm at right now, or this is where I've landed based on my entire experience. But also be willing to the idea that, but I'm willing to change, but I'm open to new interpretations, because I think that's key. Is that anybody who's truly locked in on this is the way it is, um, they cannot they cannot see anything else besides that. They're locked into their worldview. And anybody that's trying to tell you that they know what is true is also something to be very much a concern. Don't nobody, because again, if I don't know, I know I don't know, I don't know, I know you don't know, but I don't know that you don't know that you don't know. I think you know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole situation. So, but the knowing idea is like deep down in your whether it's your heart or your soul, or it's a deep kind of resonance, the things that you know.
Well, I
um,
feel like that's where it kind of also like what you like. I think that's why like things like you said, like nature being the only truth there is, and the way it like balances itself out. Like I feel like that's a really incredible framework to kind of live through, right? And then also like talking about the frequency of love. Like, do you know what love is? Like, does that feel like a truth in your body? Does that feel like a knowing?
so it's an interesting thing. Like I can say with absolute certainty that I love my boys, right? Like, but somebody might see my relationship and might say, oh well, if you love them you would have done this, or you should do that, like, because that would be mean what love is. But it's like, who are you to tell me what it is? Like, that's your experience of what it could be or should be. um, yeah, it's an
But
interesting.
that's different. But you're what I'm saying is your feeling of love to
Right,
your boys, nobody can take
exactly.
that away
But
from
that doesn't mean
you.
my feeling or what that is to me is the same for somebody else. So we can't even agree on like what
Right.
what love is. It's again different for each person because it's based on their experience, their viewpoints, what they, like everything. It's a spectrum based on
Right.
your own lived experience. And I think the nature side of it is nature makes no claims, right? Like, what claims does nature make? It's not trying to convince you of anything.
It just is.
It just is. A cat's not walking up to you saying, I'm a cat and I do this and I do that and I feel this and you're wrong because of this and I'm right because of that. It's just like, no, I'm just a cat. I'm going to be doing my cat thing over here. It doesn't really care. As long as you're not messing with it,
Right, or trying to eat it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. It's only going to mess with you if you mess with
Yeah.
it, in some way or another. And yeah, there's no, birds aren't walking up to me and trying to tell me that I'm wrong for my belief about this, that, or the other. They're just busy being birds. And I think humanity could do a lot with that lesson. And not so much that we shouldn't be moving forward and talking about things, but I think coming from the perspective of like, I'm right or I know. Um, I think that's the major change that needs to happen, is the sort of the maturity and awareness and understanding to be that I don't know and I'm okay with not knowing, but I'm looking and I'm trying to understand, because I think that's the most, that's like that childlike innocence. Like, children don't claim to know anything. They'll ask a million questions because they want to know. And the moment that that stops being the thing, and from asking the questions to making the statements, I think that's like when ego comes in, and that's where this sort of like building up of this persona that we use to sort of exist within the world. And unfortunately, that's just sort of the way things end up going because of the traumas and all the other things that it has. And the sooner we can get back to the not knowing and the appreciating not knowing, and um, having that humility to be like, yeah, this is crazy and I don't know what the answer is, but I'm sure interested to see where it goes, and find out where
Yeah,
it may
and I'm
take
sure
me.
interested to see how my experience goes and
Mm-hmm.
how my experience evolves, because that's really the only thing we
That's why
have
you're here.
any
Yeah.
control over, is just my reality, my experience and my reality, your experience and your reality.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, nature is the ultimate teacher.
Yeah.
Um, I feel comfortable in kind of the idea, whether you're the scientific background or the maybe religious creationist type background. I don't think it really matters. I think it's the same story being told in a different way, and it doesn't need to be at odds with each other. I think where they overlap, there's actually way much more than we realize, and versus how much they tend to
Yeah.
clash. And again, it's just connect with it and sit with it and watch it and feel it, and don't let the outside noise take away from that, because some of the best things that you get is from being alone in nature. It's one of the most healing and nourishing and sort of um, meditative type places there is. Just a walk in nature is better than 1,000 you know um, psychiatric pills or therapy sessions.
Thank you, Artemis, for giving Eric this walk in nature.
Yeah,
Because I love it when you come home and you have deep thoughts to share.
absolutely. Yeah,
So I am really grateful for that experience and for you to be having these beautiful walks now.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that about wraps it up for today. So we want to thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to like, follow, subscribe,
Yes.
comment.
What
Yeah,
is
we're
our YouTube is just
Feral Future.
Feral Future. So if
Yeah,
you can like us and subscribe, yes, that would be
that'd be
super
great.
helpful for
We're
us.
on Instagram at Your Feral Future.
Yes.
And yeah, stay tuned for lots of more information. We're going to be doing more and more stuff. A lot of collaborations, a lot of
Yeah.
new things, new products. It's all coming.
Yes.
Yep.
All coming.
All right. You know what we say.
The
It's
future is
the future's
feral.
feral. See you next time.
Thank you.